Right. So one of the more difficult things to learn is like the bend of the elbow and the bend of the knee and how the knee looks. So we'll get into a few angles of that right now. All right. So we'll start with the elbow first, really quick. We'll do the arm down, and to understand the elbow, it really is to understand the bone. So we'll just do a simplification of the bones. All right. So you have this upper joint here, come down, lower joint. And from the side view, we can kind of draw the lower joint like this here, and then you can kind of see that back part of it a little bit like this. All right, bone comes down here and down here. Right, so that would be, that's the humerus bone. Now we have two different bones that connect here, and we're going to make it to where the thumb's facing out. So when the thumb's facing out, you're going to have both bones here. Remember, the ulna is the one that makes the elbow. The ulna is the one that's connected to the pinky side of the wrist bone, and the radius is the one that like radiates, turns around, and that's the one that is on the thumb side. So what we're going to do really quickly here is just kind of take the same length and come down here like so. We'll make another line for this bone over here. So when the palm faces us or when the back of the hand faces us, what we get is this kind of, we can see both of them, they're not, though that means they're not, the bones aren't overcrossing from the side view here. We'll have the hand in here, so thumb's coming out this way, rest of the hand's coming out like this, right? So that's where the thumb's come out that way. So here we have the radius here, kind of comes like this. Now I'm just doing this quick because we've already gone through all this. Then we have the ulna. Now the ulna is what we're particularly going to be paying attention to because that's the bone. Actually, this would be a lot close together. This is the bone that makes the elbow. There's a part of here that comes out like this. This is the part that has a notch on it on the inside. The notch right here on this inside, when this arm turns out like this, and the arm goes this way, it's a part of the bone, of the humerus bone, that it rotates around on back and forth like this. And when it rotates, that's what we get the different change in how it looks. So from here, you get the elbow kind of sticking out like this. And so when you draw the arm then, you have your deltoids, you have your shoulder, and it's coming like this here. This is from a side view. See part of the shoulder here. We can see some of the bicep coming like this. We'll try to keep it kind of the same size. You have the brachialis and then the radial brachialis that comes off of behind that and comes in front here, and it wraps around to the side that the thumb is on. Coming down this way. I think I might have made it a little bit long, but oh well. You have the tricep coming back to here, the muscle between the tricep, and then the elbow, which comes out a little bit like this. Then you have that muscle that comes like this here, and comes down. You have one on each side. Let's say actually, I should have actually drawn all this coming back this way like this. To kind of match the other side, and the hand, thumbs on that side, the hand and knuckles on this side. So he's making kind of like a fist or something. That's the thumb side. Right, so what's important here is how that elbow looks like this. But this isn't the hard part, but that comes from here. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to take and we're going to bend the arm. We're going to bend this out sideways like this to see what happens to the elbow. So I decided to take the arms and move them over here. Now if you're already comfortable with all this and you don't feel like you need to, you just didn't, basically you already feel like you can draw this, then all you have to do then is work with me here as far as just drawing with me. You don't have to like do the exercises. The exercises would be to draw this a few times from reference and then from memory until you feel like you have a good handle on it. Now what happens when the arm bends out this way? Let's go ahead and make the length out to about the same, about here, and the thumb is going to be facing up this way, and the rest of the hand is going to be coming out like this. Okay. So the radius is on the thumb side, so we know the radius is here. Has a thicker part here, comes down here, then the thinner part. Okay, let's do that really quick like. Maybe zoom in just a little bit. Right now, in here, what happens, you have this part and you have the other part of the backbone you can kind of see like this. And there's that groove in between there where the bone, where the ulna rotates up in between that groove. Now that groove's not revealed now. Now the ulna is more like right here, and it comes down like this, and it still has that kind of point on it, which is what we call the elbow. Right, so now the ulna is going to come around this way, like in here, like this. Connect here. It's really hard to draw this sideways like this. I'm turning my Cintiq so I can draw more vertically. Get smooth lines. Right, and that's all going to be kind of in shadow like that. Like so. Right, now what that does then, and this is the important part, is when we draw this part of the arm isolated then, let's go ahead and just take this part of the arm. Let's get, gotta go back, gotta merge this down first. What we're gonna do is we're gonna kind of, instead of having to redraw it all, I'm gonna go like this really quick here. Put the center mark here. Kind of move it up like this. I'll end up redrawing some of it anyway. But anyway, this is a little too long. It should have been shorter. Same thing with this arm here. It should have been shorter. Right now, I'm going to go ahead and erase this part here. This is the part we're going to be redoing. So what happens then, as you can see, as the arm comes down here, is you have first this muscle here. You have your brachialis, and you have your brachyradialis, which is going to come around here. And it makes that bend right here. This muscle, that bends like that. And so along with the other muscles too, make that bend there. It comes like this, and this muscle kind of comes up like that, up into the thumb side. Sometimes you can even see that crease in there, like this. And then this will sometimes overlap like this, and there'll be a crease here, like so. Coming down where the elbow is, imagine then here, just imagine you have this kind of area like this of the arm. If you imagine the arm like this, like you almost like you have a, I don't know, maybe the joint of the arm is here or something. Just imagine it like that. It'll help you draw the arm when it bends correctly, like this. So that when you draw it, you have this piece here where it's quite flat. So from the front then, imagine you have this kind of thing coming out like this, like a block, and then you have these two parts on each side like this, which would be the muscles, right? And if you imagine it like that, so you have this space here, this space right here, that's what we're seeing right here. Imagine it like that in a simplified way, and I think you'll have a lot easier time when drawing the elbow. Let's go ahead and get rid of this though and redo it to make it look a little bit more realistic. So that muscle kind of comes down like this, comes down to the elbow. At this point, the elbow is going to look something like this, because it's pretty much following the same thing as that right there. You have your elbow like that. Sometimes you might even see the dip, but usually there's tendons between here anyway. It's going to come down. You might have a little bit of muscle come out like this, right? There's usually a cut in the arm right here as well. And then we'll do one more where we kind of pull the arm up a little bit further and see what happens with the elbow. It gets more pointy and why it gets more pointy. Okay, again, to save time, I'm just going to copy. Actually, what I'm going to do, edit, copy, edit, paste. We'll pull this whole entire thing over, and then we're going to erase the part we don't need right now. Actually, with the bone, they pretty much stay the same. It just continues to wrap around, so it continues to wrap up like this. And the bones just pretty much stay locked just like this too. And then bam, it goes down like that. And so what happens then is now you have this bump that faces down. You have tendons pulling and stuff in between here, right? And muscles come around. So the point is down, is facing down now. Kind of usually a little bit, this bone's a little bit more bulky like this. And that's your elbow facing down there. So when this arm turns up like that, it's also going to cover part of the bicep. It pretty much stays just like that too. About like that. So once you learn that basic mechanic that I showed you, then all this right here becomes basic, because it's like you're just continuing the distance of, you continue what you already know there. You know, just kind of continue it around. All right, so what happens here, let's go ahead and look at the bones here first. When you have this muscle that comes down around here in tendons, it kind of comes across like this. This actually ends up pointing down more. All right, so you can see just mostly just a side view of this bone here. This is actually going to come down. This isn't quite how I wanted. I wanted to make it even more. Let's extend this up even more like this. This is more what I wanted to show you. Okay. So what happens then is, as this bone comes like this here, and it comes down like a point. Oh, damn, come on. I swear I think that Wacom should like give me a discount on my next tablet because I want to get the new 13-inch one. I think that's what it is. Wait, this looks awesome. You have the muscles come up this way, tendons and stuff. You'll have a curve like this, and then this right here will be the point of your elbow. That's the point of your elbow you're going to see, and it's going to come in, and you're not going to have muscles and stuff come off until here, like this. So how this is going to be shaped, let's go ahead and reshape all this here because this is all wrong. Keep in mind the wrists are straight for the most part. And then in this case, you know, the hands actually being, you know, it's kind of bending because you can bend your wrists like that, right? Let's go ahead and erase a lot of this in here because we're going to redo it all. First off, this is going to come down here more. The crease actually comes down more, comes up like this, covers the bicep. You have the little bulge of muscle here. Sometimes your tricep will just come right into there, then you might see a little bit of muscle like that. Remember, this here is like your tendon of your tricep. It's going to kind of come out a little bit here, kind of come flat. Then here's just like up here. That's where you're going to see your elbow. Then it's going to kind of turn in here. And you might be able to see a little bit of that. And that's how it's going to look. So if you memorize those mechanics that we just went through right there, that is going to tremendously help you when you're drawing different kinds of poses. One other thing I wanted to briefly talk about is the forearm before we get into the knee. Right, so let's take this arm, these two arms here. This is what we'll work with. Okay, don't know what the hell happened there, but let's try it again. Make sure my mic's working good here. Copy. Nope. I gotta merge all this down first. Merge down. Okay. I'm going to move this over here. Make sure that's... Now what we're going to do is what's going to happen is when you twist it to where your arm's going to twist around like this to where now the pinky is going to be facing us. What happens then is this bone is going to, the bones are going to turn over each other. Matter of fact, let me show you what this looks like. Right, so I'll show you here with this skeleton in Daz Studio. What will happen here is as the wrist turns, you see what happens with the bones there? So when we're viewing it like this, how we were drawing it before, there's space between them. As you turn the thumb inward and the pinky outward, notice how the radius is overturning, right? Now that means the muscle that connects here, your brachialis and your brachyradialis that comes out here and attached to this thumb side, as that thumb turns away, that muscle has to turn up and over like that. Then we're going to see more of the underside of the muscles, right? That's what's going to happen. If it turns the other way, the opposite's going to happen. The brachyradialis is going to come here. You're going to see a big old muscle come down like this to the side here, like that. Right, so we'll draw both ways, thumb facing out, pinky facing in, so you have that twisting of the muscles, so the muscles turn over and you see different muscles. It's important to learn that. Right, so the first one we're going to do is we're going to turn this over here. So let's go ahead and erase all this. Okay, we'll erase this as well. So what's going to happen then is we're going to still have the radius right here. That's not going to change. They're going to turn over each other though. So the ulna doesn't do much more than but shift forward, really. Let's go ahead and go down to the wrist part here. So now the wrist is going to be very tiny in width because we're viewing it from the side. You're viewing these metacarpal bones, pinky here, the thumb's back over there where we can't see it. So as the ulna, what happens is the ulna comes down, still connects to the same area. So it just kind of seems to move forward a little bit. The radius, it literally twists, it turns around, it literally twists. It's like take a stick and rotate it around, like you're trying to make a fire, right? So it's twisting around like this. And because it does that, these two bones get closer together and they kind of overlap each other. As they come down like this, and then here, like so. But what happens here is a pretty tremendous difference. So what happens here is that we still see the brachialis here, and the bicep the same. You have the deltoid muscle that comes in here and everything. All that stays the same. But the brachyradialis, as it comes out over here, it has to really turn now and come over and around on the other side because the hand is disappearing. Remember, the thumb is disappearing. So the thumb, I'm going to make this a lot smaller now. We're viewing the side of the hand here. We're viewing this side of the palm. And the pinky here. Right, that's what we're viewing. And then we're viewing some of these fingers here. I'm just going to kind of draw them short-handed here. By shorthand, I mean like the shorthand version, like, you know, if you get the shorthand version of a word or something like that. The thumb's on the other side. We can't see the thumb. So that muscle has to turn around. The wrist stays pretty straight. That muscle is turning around and going on the other side over there. So it's going the opposite side of us right now. Over here, connected to the thumb. As it does that, it twists. This whole muscle twists and comes over there. There's two muscles there. And there's another muscle that comes off like right here. You won't be able to see all these, but I'm just showing you the muscles that do it. And you have the other muscle that comes this way, right here. And it kind of comes to right about there. And then you have your elbow here. this. Then you have the muscle that kind of comes down right here. There's one more muscle right in here, like this. We're starting to see some of those under muscles like that. Right, and then there's another muscle that comes out like that. Anyway, you got this muscle here. So you can see it really changes compared to this here. You're really seeing this muscle push over a lot more than you did here, because here the thumb is facing on the side and here it wasn't. So the muscles you end up seeing, though, you don't end up seeing all that kind of definition. What you usually end up seeing is a little bit of this here, overturning like this. You might see, depending on how buff the person is, you might see a little bit of this muscle here, a little bit of this here. You're going to definitely see this dip here, this muscle that dips right here. There's going to be a shadow like this, and that's showing the separation of the elbow. That kind of just comes out this way, like that. Another one you usually always see from this when the hand is in this direction is you'll see this right here. When it kind of turns away. And you might see a little bit of one of these muscles here. That's pretty much it. You know, if the person's really, really ripped, you might see a little bit of that muscle there, tone there. And you can, once you know all those muscles, you can really bring out however many of the muscles you want, make the guy look as ripped as you want when you're doing comic book characters and such. Let's do one more of the arm, but this time we're going to switch it around the other way. So now we're going to erase this bottom again. We're going to switch around to where the thumb's facing us. Right, so now what happens is the ulna goes behind and the radius is actually going to come in front now. So again, it has like this, rotating cup, looks kind of like this because it spins around on that. And it's going to come around to the front now. Come on. Like this. A little bit of a gap here. Right, so it's coming around and it twists around to the front. Now we're dealing with the thumb side. So here we have the thumb coming out like this, and then you have the fingers coming down, down. The ones over there we can't see. So I kind of made this a little bit longer than it needs to be. I wasn't really realizing I was doing that before. Let's make it a little bit shorter. Should have made the other one shorter as well, but that's okay. Right now, this drastically changes the way the muscles look and what muscles we see. So now we have the thumb coming out here, right? And here now we're seeing the thumb side. We're seeing the side of the hand here, where this knuckle is, and then you have hand coming down here. So erase a lot of this here because the muscles are going to change a lot. Pretty much up here stays the same. You're still going to have the elbow coming out right here. You still have your tricep coming this way. Brachyradialis. Then you have, or the brachialis, and your brachyradialis is going to come out here. But a lot of it's showing now. So as it comes here, comes down and connects to the thumb, we can actually see a lot more of it now. Comes down and connects right about here actually. So it comes down and we're seeing more of the muscles from the other side over there. Now in here, this is where we're going to see a lot of difference. We're going to see these muscles that kind of came across this way, but you're not going to be able to see these muscles with skin on the body. You're still going to have that same shape here like this. Come down here. And this area is where it's going to change though. Now we're going to see this muscle comes right here. And sorry, I don't remember all the names of the muscles and stuff. And I could, look at it real quick again, but I just remember how they are. Bam, like that. See, almost like a B right here. But then you have these other muscles underneath here that come around here, and you can see these too. Now, when you have skin on it, it doesn't quite look like that, obviously. With skin on it, though, we are going to see some important differences. So you're going to have the bicep kind of pulling down more now. And this all kind of changes. What happens is you kind of get this thing coming front like this more, where it's like the bicep kind of continues almost like this. And then you'll have that indent here and the cut here of the muscle coming down straight. Still, all that stays the same. Let's go ahead and get rid of a lot of these details here that we don't need anymore. You're still going to have the little bit of bulkiness there of the brachialis. You'll have this muscle here now. This muscle is going to come all the way out over here now. See, over here, it didn't, came down to here. Now, that indent goes in. So instead of coming out like this, it now has an indent inwards instead of outwards, and it doesn't come out until it comes over here. This creates this very different shape here when the thumb's versus when the pinky's out. You'll see that little bit of diamond there sometimes that we just, or that cut that we saw in here like this. And then this cut here that we saw. Right? So you might see those, that little shape right there. Right, so hopefully this helps you. Definitely take your time to draw this several times and from reference and from memory. And it's going to tremendously increase your knowledge of pretty much any pose you draw. Because when you're drawing these different poses, you're going to come back to this knowledge, and this knowledge is going to be like, oh, that helps so much now when I'm drawing. Just trust me, it's going to help you tremendously. Now let's do the same thing for the knee, because believe me, understanding the mechanics of the knee and how it bends and folds out and stuff is going to really help you understand the mechanics of the leg better when you're drawing poses, because, poses depend on arms bending and twisting and legs twisting and bending. And understanding those mechanics, just like we have understood some of these mechanics here, the arms, also, probably need to get a little bit into the mechanics of the hips twisting and turning, along with the torso twisting and turning, and bending forward and backwards as well. Getting that a little bit, and then of course we'll do some poses, and then we definitely also have to add the fat tissue still to the body. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the knee real quick. All right, so we'll start with the femur bone. Remember, the femur bone kind of connects to the hip this way, has a part that comes out, but it's being foreshortened, so it's coming out toward us, so we don't see much of it. Or if it's from the side view, you kind of see it more like this, and it comes out, like, kind of like this, and then it comes down to the bone, right? Has kind of a, when you view it from a side view, it kind of has a bow to it, kind of comes out like this. And then you have that might be a little bit too long. Right about here, then we'll start making the thicker part of the bone here. From the side view, it kind of looks like this. Keep it more basic and angled. Then we have that's the femur. Now we have the tibia, which is going to connect out like this, and it creates this shape right here. This kind of M shape between the two bones. As this comes in, kind of has a triangle shape to it where it comes down like this. Now normally when you're just standing normally, you're not like stretching your leg out to where you have to flex your upper thigh muscles. That is, to pull your leg forward like this. If it's just kind of standing there relaxed, what happens is you have a little notch right here in the tibia. Kind of comes like this. And then you have your kneecap. And remember, the kneecap fits more up here than it does down there. And so then you have the skin as it comes over the kneecap. Comes down, you'll just see something like that within the leg, right, when there's skin on it. But when you have the leg where it's really pushed out forward, where you're flexing these muscles here, then what happens is the kneecap gets stuck way close here, like this. And then the tendon gets pulled taut between this little area, and it ends up looking like that. It ends up looking more straight. You don't see that indent. Anyway, just thought I would point that out. Let's pull this. Gets quite thin from the side view. We're kind of pulling it forward because we're doing what I said with it. Then you have the fibula connected back here. And it's going to kind of come down, connect here to this side, and this is going to make your ankle, your outer ankle. Remember, whether you're viewing from the back view or the front view, when you have this leg, it's the inner ankle that's higher and the outer ankle that's lower. So the outer ankle is what we're looking at now, and so it's the fibula ankle that is lower. So the higher ankle is back there, fibula is here. Then you have your foot and all that comes down here, and we're not going to worry about that. Okay, so what we're going to worry about is the knee. So what happens, this is how the knee looks then when you have the leg, pushed forward and you're flexing all these muscles here. So what that does for the actual leg then, we'll kind of come a little bit to the hip, draw a little bit of the hip in there, then draw the leg muscles coming in this way. We'll have them kind of buffed out. We'll draw the buttocks back here, and we'll kind of come down with the back part of the leg here. And when we get to the knee here, what happens is this muscle here is going to be, you're going to have a little bit of a view of that muscle back there, the side muscle. You have these muscles that come to the side here. Maybe we should kind of draw a general idea of the leg. We're having it come forward. Remember, it's all swooping forward like this here. So we'll draw that line swooping forward. Have the ankle in here and the foot. And it's going to come out that way. And we're viewing the pinky side, so we'll be able to see more of the toes. Right, now what happens with the knee in this from this direction is you're going to see this part of the knee here. You're going to see a break between here and here. And so what we're seeing then is a little bit of the kneecap as it comes down right here. We'll be able to see a little bit of the other muscle behind from the other direction. I'll be able to put it in shadow to show that's behind it. It's behind. You're going to see definitely some of this muscle over here, like that as it comes around. You're going to see a lot of this inner side here, where it's going to look kind of like this. That's how the knee's going to look. You have this skin coming down the calf muscle. You kind of flex like this. And it comes down with all the tendon that connects to the, let's say, Achilles tendon. I'll actually make the ankle a little bit lower or down there. And then sometimes we'll see a little dent right here still, even though the knee is bent out. Like that. Right, so that's how the leg is going to look. Right, so now let's go ahead and bend the leg out a little bit this way. So first we'll do a quick version. Come out this way. That big bone here looks like this, right? The kneecap then comes the patella. It's going to come out like this. There's a tendon that comes down, attaches here, which gives the shape of the knee. You have a little bit of distance here between That's the femur bone that we drew up there. That was representing foreshortening. Just doing a quick like. Then the tibia, which comes down here. Remember, there's a part of the tibia that bumps out right here, like protrudes out, almost like a spike. Come down like this now, almost like we're coming straight down. And it kind of branches out like this. Then you have the fibula, and it's going to kind of come around, and it's going to come down further here, making our ankle bone. Like something like so. Might have made it a little too bulky in here, but that's alright. Just kind of, you know, make it a little bit smaller. It's close enough though. Right, it's kind of like that. Understanding how the bones work helps understand how the leg looks when it bends. And this time maybe we'll just draw right on top of the bones, the muscles. No, maybe not, because it's good to show them both side by side. So let's go ahead and take this and move it down. We'll start a whole new line here, like so. Probably make all this smaller too after a little bit. So we're going to draw the butt coming down like this. Right here, like so. The same part, remember, you have that same hip bone we drew before, which we drew right here. And off that comes your pecs and everything. Not your pecs, but your abdominal muscles. The leg, the bending part of the leg we talked about before, comes right here. So now the thigh is coming out like this. And the butt kind of rolls into the under thigh muscle. That's going to kind of where to make this first person have buff legs. Coming this way. This will be where the knee is going to be. Then we'll draw kind of rough in where the leg will be. And we're going to kind of come almost straight down like we did here. So let's come almost straight down again here. Make the foot angled. That's more the flat side, so we're seeing more of the toes. So something about like that. Come in with our eraser, kind of lighten it all up, and we'll come and make it look more correct. And yeah, I can definitely draw all this a lot smaller because apply. Just grab this leg, make it a little bit. This way I can zoom in more when I'm drawing and get cleaner lines. Okay, so when things are overlapping each other, it's good to draw them overlapping. These muscles are being bent up now, kind of like with the elbow, right? So they kind of get squished up right here. And so you're going to see this kind of squished up witness with this muscle here coming down. You're going to have a gap in here like that. Ankle's going to come down here now. Not ankle, what the heck? Calf muscle. Might be able to see a little bit of the definition here like so. And it's going to come down, and you know, I probably need to make it a little bit longer. Making them a little bit stout and short, which would be fine for certain types of bodies, especially maybe you need to be a little more stout and shorter for someone like a dwarf, but pretty close. Okay, like that. The ankle builds up here. You're gonna have a little bit of that tendon where you can see it coming up. Again, all that down there is not so important. The main part we're trying to focus on is the knee. This muscle here comes out, and you usually always see this line here from this outer side muscle. And sometimes even a little bit of that little line there, like that. And this here is also going to be kind of pinched in here. Now here, you're going to see a little bit of that outer muscle over there, the longer muscle. Now the knee is going to kind of change as you see how this looks here. You're going to have this kind of coming out. You kind of come out with the knee now to the patella, which is sticking out a little bit. Then it comes down, right? Because the patella actually has an angle kind of like that. Kind of comes down like this, and then it comes in, starts coming in here. It's going to attach to the bone. The muscles are going to come out. They're going to come down like that. Right, so that's how the knee is going to look. You know, this muscle here is mainly what's giving the look here. You might be able to see a little bit of some of the definitions of the bones in here. A little bit coming down like that. Might be able to see a little bit of this. Sometimes you might be able to see a little bit of that right there as it comes down, attaches. Might be able to see a little bit of that bump right there, but not much when you're in this angle, right? So that's as if the person's getting ready to sit down. They're starting to squat to sit down. Really understanding how the knee looks, you know, how it changes based on that. You can see how the bone gets closer, and all of this is closer and tighter. When you start moving, it's not as tight together, and the kneecap starts to move. And you can literally feel your kneecap moving and tightening when your leg is straight out and relaxed, and you're holding your leg straight out. Your kneecap, you can wiggle it around and move it around. Like take your leg and lay it down on the bed or something, and make sure you're not flexing your muscles or anything. You have to be totally relaxed. And if you're totally relaxed, like set your leg up, set your heel up on a table or something, and totally relax everything. Take your patella or your kneecap, you can literally move it around, back and forth. You can slide it around, mainly back and forth. As you begin to tighten your leg muscles, all those tendons tighten around that loose kneecap, and it tightens it so it can't move around anymore. And then especially as you bend your knee, all those ligaments and stuff start pulling and tightening, and the tendons start tightening. Sorry, I was actually doing that, testing it out with my own leg as I was talking to you, like as if you guys can see me or something. Right, so the next way knees can look is kind of like when you're like seated down on your legs or on your shins and your knees, and you're kind of like sitting on your feet. So the position would be like, you know, you're kind of like this, and then your legs are kind of out here, and the leg comes up, and you're sitting on your foot, and your foot's coming out like this way. You know, knees here, maybe your back's arched, maybe your arms pulled back, maybe your head's pulled back as well. You know, whatever kind of position that you're in, or maybe you're in the child's pose on yoga. Doesn't really matter. We'll just how does the knee look like when you're in that position? That's what we're going to draw now. So we'll start out. We'll zoom in here. We'll start out with the start up here, I guess, with the femur. It's being foreshortened, the part that's coming out at us like this. There's that like part that we talked about that connects to the hip bone. Remember, the femur comes out from the hip bone, and it comes in like that, right? It comes down. So it has that shape to it. And we'll have it coming out almost straight like this. And this is about where it's going to stop, and then it's going to come back down. We'll have it, you know, it doesn't have to come back down like this exact. It can also come down like, let's say, more like this. It doesn't have to come out so much at an angle. It pretty much what you have to draw is the same. So we have the femur bone, which is going to look like this. And from this outside view, there's a part of the femur bone that sticks out quite a bit. And you can feel this on your own bone. Yeah, kind of squat down that position I was just showing you, that pose I just kind of drew, and feel on the outside of your leg. You have that part of your femur. You can feel it. It sticks out, and you know, kind of makes like a. It's kind of like the elbow. The elbow has these two bones that stick out. And then you have the elbow in the middle. So this is from the back view, and so the elbow and the knee are very similar. And so just like when the elbow is bent and you get this kind of muscle here, and then you get the elbow, you get something very similar when you have this view here. And you have the kneecap. Now the kneecap, but interesting enough, the kneecap actually comes down more this way now, and you can actually feel this on yourself. You're kind of sitting more on your kneecap when you get in this position, and then your tibia comes like this and kind of points like that. Then you have that one point in it like this, that part that sticks out, and it's going to come down. I'm going to make that part light because we're actually going to have the fibula is going to come over that part of the tibia. So the fibula is going to fit right in here, and it's going to kind of come close and come down like this. Little gap between them, and that's going to make your ankle. It's going to come lower. This actually is going to come closer here and then come out. That's getting all sloppy. Okay, let's go and gotta change the size of my eraser here. Okay, I gotta turn my tablet so I can draw toward myself. I personally draw best when I'm drawing toward myself. Right, like that. So that's the basicness of it. Now when we draw it with skin on it, we have the buttocks here, and the buttocks are going to kind of wrap around, and they're going to tuck under, and they're like this, and then the foot, you know, especially if we're drawing, but we're going to draw the foot down more like this because we're drawing down this way. In fact, we could even draw the foot facing down, like drawing the outside of the foot. Remember, so there's not really an arch there because we're drawing the pinky part. You have those part, so come out actually a little bit longer than that. And so, like so. We're going to draw this part of the hip coming up this way, part of the leg coming down like this more, and it comes out here. Remember, when we draw from the front view, you have your pelvic bone. We have the basic shape, the Superman underwear kind of look here. That's the basicness of it. You have the crotch coming down a little more. Remember, the leg attaches way up here and down here. And it's this part right here. This is all in between. It's this part here where when you bend, that's the part that bends. That part right here. That's the part that bends. And so when the leg comes toward us, this is the knee, and it comes down like this. When you're sitting down, let's say, just remember that's the part that bends. When you see the leg coming toward us, and you still have part of that leg that comes up that way, and you have love handles and everything, right? That's an important thing to memorize. So from the side view, you can see that same thing happening. It's bending down, even though the hip is coming up this way. Then you have, the muscle group here of your love handle, and your stomach muscles coming out that way. Alright, so thigh is going to come out quite a ways actually. We'll go out to about here. Just trying to measure the overall length of the leg. I want about right here. It's good to have an ending point decided. Alright, so we're going to come up. And then out like over here. Now what's going to happen with the knee is really important. As you can see, there's a muscle here. That's mostly what you're seeing. So mostly what you're seeing right here is muscle coming like this. Right? The next part you're going to see is actually the kneecap, which is coming up this way. It's coming down like that. So the next part you're seeing is that point of the kneecap. And so you might see a little point right here like this. And this is usually what causes that dent that you see in the leg this way. You might see one more dent right there, and that's the dent of the actual part that sticks out of the tibia. Overall, then you have this muscle that's on the side of the knee, and it's going to kind of go like this, and so you get that same kind of look as the elbow. That's what it reminds me of, at least. Okay, and now we might see a little bit of a muscle right up here, of a separation muscle up there like that. You might see that muscle kind of, come on, what the heck is going so slow? Turning down that area right there. You might be able to see a little bit of this side muscle here, this little dent right here. Now what's going to happen is the leg, where that bend is, your thigh muscle, not your thighs, your calf muscle, is going to come up into your thigh, and they kind of come together. It's not like it necessarily overlaps it, but there's a curve in your thigh right there that allows for your calf to kind of fit right in there conveniently. And you'll be able to see this muscle coming down like this. And this is going to come up to your hip area like that, and then the back's going to come off that up there. Calf is going to come down into the ankle area down here. That's that ankle, the fibula ankle. You're going to have the muscle. It's going to come off here a little bit. It's going to come down to the foot. So I might have exaggerated the, let's not totally erase it. Now we can kind of see the mistake and correct it. So it might bend a little bit more, then come to the knee like that. And that's kind of the shape you're going to get of the knee. And it might not be that drastic. Sometimes it'll be more subtle. It'll be like you see that muscle come around, and then you'll see this kind of like this. Basically, the thing to memorize is the angle is like that when you see the knee from this angle. So the angle's one here and one there. That's the angles to remember. And just know that sometimes you can actually see that patella poking out there. That's your knee bone. Alright, so this is all important. Let's draw a few more shots of knees, and then we'll get into the torso in the next video, the next lesson. And then finally we'll start adding on the fat, and then get a couple different poses, and I think we'll call it done. Oh, and then I either want to do breast mechanics or redo it, or at least add it from the other figure course into this course. So when we look at the front of the knee, I just want to discuss something really quickly. The bones are quite big in the front of the leg, right? So let's do a man's leg first. Again, you have, remember the leg is like this. It's longer here as it comes down, shorter on this side. Then you have the serratus, which comes around this way. Comes around, you have that buff muscle here. You have another muscle comes around on the side here, and this connects around the side of the leg. Now remember, your bones are big. They come all the way out here, right? Tibia comes all the way out here. Kneecap fits in here. Just keep that in mind. Your bones are big. They come out to the edge there. Now, when you draw the kneecap then, so let's draw this muscle coming down here. It's kind of shaped by the knee itself, where it kind of comes up and around. You might see a split here. And as this knee it comes across, you might see a little bit of this muscle here as well. Remember that angle? You have that triangle angle. Almost all the angles go down. Almost all the triangles between go down, showing you the angles of the muscles. This muscle is higher. This muscle is lower. You have your kneecap. Now, the kneecap fits in here. Ideally, if you had no loose skin when this is when you're relaxed and you're just standing there, your knee's not bent at all. It's usually why any kind of like sexy photo you find of a girl, their legs are slightly bent. And this is because when your legs aren't slightly bent and this skin is not taut, it wrinkles up in weird ways, and everyone wrinkles up differently. Remember, you always have these muscles on each side of your knee, because the kneecap is not the size of your knee. The leg is huge. Your bones are way out here, and they come up and they come down. So we gotta remember that part. The kneecap is a tiny bone compared to those two bones, and so it takes up only a small portion of the inside of the leg. And then you have the muscle comes off here. You have the bone that comes here and it comes off this way inside. Just remember that it swoops to the inside. This curve here is on the inside. So if you're drawing the right leg like I am, it's actually their left leg, but it's to our right. That bone swoops to the inside. So it's always on the inside, and that means that the calf is going to be over here like this. And this is going to come down here, down to that ankle. Remember the ankles, there's an upside down triangle when you get down here. And inside is higher, outside is lower. Or excuse me, I'm sorry. It goes like that because the fibula, sorry about that. The triangle, remember the triangle is like a normal triangle. Just remember that the bottom of the person's figure, there's a normal triangle, a triangle that stands upwards, pointing upwards. Just remember that you have to stand on flat ground. This is a way to remember it. The person has to stand on flat ground. So which way does the triangle go? It goes up. Because if the triangle went down, they're not standing on flat ground, right? And so knowing that, then you know that this inside ankle is a higher ankle, right? And the outside ankle is a lower ankle, like that. Come out with this muscle here. So come around like that. Got that muscle coming a little bit like that. The knee sometimes has these little wrinkles of skin in here. Now that's not the shape of the patella or of your kneecap. Your kneecap is nice and solid like this. But you get these wrinkles of skin in here. Like in here you might have some. Every knee is different, so there's really no right or wrong way to do it. It's just the skin wrinkles up in this area. Sometimes it wrinkles up like this, has a slight wrinkle right here. Sometimes there's a couple wrinkles in here, and the knee looks really ugly. The knee is not an attractive thing, which again is why when you see pictures of models, typically their legs are slightly bent. That is to get rid of the wrinkles in the leg. Let's say you had a female leg, right? Same thing, we're gonna draw this coming out here. We'll draw the outside of the leg first. Remember, her bone pushes out further. And so what happens as a result is she comes out further before she comes back in. That being the whitest part of her body. She also has depending on how much fat she has, she'll have some fat builds up here. Don't worry, we'll get into soon where the fat builds up on females. Okay, it's kind of those are just to show why you get that curve right there like that. This comes all the way down, and the kneecap is going to fit into this area. We're drawing her leg longer than we did the man's. I probably should have kept it around the same size to keep this. Yeah, so we'll just kind of make sure we're keeping it similar size here. Same thing too. Her kneecap is small, fitting in here. So we have that muscle here on the outside. We have the other muscle over here, which comes down, and it's more of a curved muscle like this. And then this muscle kind of seems to come almost grow off the kneecap and come out like this. And the calf comes down further, just like with the man. You have this curve, and sometimes you actually see this curve on a female like this, coming down to the ankles, and like so. Right now, typically, when you draw female legs, you don't want to draw much detail with the kneecap. So mainly you might only want to draw this line right here, and that's pretty much it. Maybe a little bit of the tendon that comes down, because you have a tendon that comes down here too that sometimes you can see. And that's pretty much it. Bam, kneecap's done. If you add too much more detail than that, it starts looking, not so attractive, right? And so, but naturally you can also get the skin folding in here like this. If you wanted to draw it really realistically, you'll see a little bit of that muscle over here maybe, like so. And so if you wanted to draw that, you could, and you might even see another wrinkle in this area here. And now it looks ugly. I'm not saying that. Maybe I just don't like knees, so I don't think they're that attractive. But when they're flexed and stuff, they are kind of attractive. And so even if the person's standing, I'll draw the knee more like that, like it's flexed, because it looks more. To me, it looks more sexy. You might draw just a little notch over there on that side, or you might just kind of draw the shape of the knee cap, and that's it. And voila, you got a front standing leg. Let's go back to this male leg here, and let's alter it a bit. Let's say the person's a little bit more ripped, right? We'll keep the basic shape there. We won't change that much. But what we're going to do is we're going to have this muscle here, and we're really going to pump this muscle out. Bam. So we're really going to cut in here like this. And we might even see a little bit of this center muscle here like this. And we'll see some of this muscle down here. We're going to draw the opposite leg now too. Now we're going to change it to his right leg. So this one is the person's left leg. This one will be the person's right leg. And so because it's going to be the person's right leg, we're actually going to be changing a couple things. All these contours will change. And this is going to change because now the high ankle is the opposite way, right? Here and here. Triangle like that. So this is kind of like almost like a pair of legs now. And We also have, oh, we have to change quite a few things. Oh well. So let's go ahead and change this as well. Okay. This muscle now is, let's actually make this a little bit higher. Okay, this is the lower muscle now. I think it's good to draw things from both angles. The reason why is because if you get used to just drawing one side, then it gets confusing when you try to reverse things or draw poses where you have to draw it the other way. We'll draw this muscle as it's actually kind of like a buff muscle coming in like, oh, like more like this. So it's kind of buff, and then the calves seem to grow out of that. And bam, then you have the knee. We'll fit the kneecap into this area here. And coming off that kneecap, we'll have the tendon. And then we're going to have this muscle, or the bone, kind of pulling in like this. We're going to have a big part of the muscle here coming out like that. That is, they have really worked out this shin bone muscle. And we're just going to see it kind of go like that and curve down into the ankle bone. Ankle bone. This is going to come in. This line usually right here will kind of curve. We'll follow this line here. This line kind of curves, this muscle line kind of curves into this line, and this line kind of comes down to the ankle. So it's kind of like an S you can follow, kind of like boom, and it kind of comes down to this ankle here. And then you have the calf coming up off of that. This in here, it comes out more, and that muscle out here like this. Might be able to see a little bit of the calf back there. And then even with the buff person that has like hardly any fat, there's still loose skin here. So if you wanted to draw it realistically, you got to have some loose skin in here. And you know, I would recommend to draw it lightly, not to do it with dark hard lines or it'll look really weird and old. So just kind of loosely put some skin in there. Let's make this part darker as it's moving away from the light. We'll even overlap that just a little bit right here. And then these muscles are more taut, more like tendons, like that. Add some shadow underneath this muscle here. Add some shadow underneath this muscle here as well. This whole side of the kneecap. And then all of this side over here. Like so. Right, so that's a little bit about knees. Knees can seem difficult to draw, but if you really take down these mechanics here and everything else you learned previously about the knee, I think the knees won't give you nearly as much trouble as they used to. So actually, I'm going to call that good. I think that's good for the knees and the elbows, just to get a little bit more in depth about them when we go through a couple poses. You know, I'll try to pick out some poses where you got some like angles of knees and stuff like that, and kind of how to look at it. Right, so what I want you to do then for the exercises is to draw everything that we draw in here several times from reference, along with me either in the video or just from the reference here that you're looking at, and several times from memory, and try to learn, you know, how when the arm turns over, how the muscles change in the forearm. Really try to go back to other parts of lessons and really try to get that part down. The part's really important. And I did want to fix one thing here in the map with the arm, because I fixed it in one pose but not the other, and that's with the wrist here. This is not correct. So the wrist is pretty much straight. And so the wrist comes out straight, like this, and then it comes out into the muscles. Dang it. It's hard for me to draw horizontally, especially on the computer screen. And maybe I should emphasize the straightness here some more too. There we go. So there you have it. So our map is turning out to be quite interesting, I think, here, of various poses and whatnot. A lot of this stuff doesn't have to be this big. Oops, I'm going to go ahead actually and first take all these layers and merge them together. Let's go ahead and make a leg smaller. And honestly, I think all this here doesn't have to be this big. I think this whole part here can be a lot smaller. That way it can fit more on the page. And let me see, let's just zoom in here. Well, that looks pretty good, I guess. I want to make that any smaller. Go ahead and save it. Alright, and what we'll be doing next in the next lesson is learning the torso and twisting and bending the torso in different ways, backwards, forwards, things like that, and I think that will really, and also hips. The difference between the contrast between the torso and how it can twist is how you have two portions. We'll quickly just kind of get into this for a second before we move on. So you have the back of the rib cage and the front of the rib cage. It's kind of like an egg. An egg shape is how to kind of look at it. And you have like the sternum part here, and so there's a space between here before you have the hip bone, and I like to usually just draw it as like a V, like iliac crest. Just get the iliac crest in there. Sometimes maybe even draw it like this, and then out here you have the legs. So actually, let's make them come in a little bit further, a little bit closer. What's going to happen then is this piece here is solid, and this piece down here is solid. And you can also represent it, you kind of wanted to represent it more as a shape of some sort. You can kind of represent it like this. And just know that your love handles are going to be, they're going to fit in on top of this here. And so it's going to be love handles, and then legs are going to come off of here. Anyway, what's important is all in here is like, think of it as an elastic band, and this is all stretchable. So all this red part, this is all stretchable. It can twist and turn and bend forward and backwards, but these portions here are solid, the blue portions. It's solid. It can't move and twist and turn. It's not gummy. It's like a solid piece of, hardness. And this cannot move. It cannot twist, cannot move. But because this can move, this can turn, and this can turn even the opposite way. But the turning point is here. It's in between the two objects. It's not like this object can independently turn of itself. It's a solid object. And the way I like to think about this, and the reason why I'm going to this is because this will be the next lesson that we get into, is if you think about, if you have like your, I don't know, your sack or something like here that kind of connects to a box or something. This being the hip and this being your rib cage, and you have that space in between here that can turn. You can kind of think about it as like a sack sort of like a sort of like a peanut or something. And here in between you have the part that can turn. So the top part of the peanut can turn one way, and this part can turn the other way. They can both turn the same way, and that's how you get twisting. They can also fold, so you can have the sack kind of fold over toward us, right? When it folds over toward us, we're kind of seeing a little bit of the front of the sack here. That's that is the top part of that sack, and then it kind of rolls back around away from us, and then we can see a little bit of this other part of the sack. This is the bottom part here, like this, right? So now what we're seeing then is like kind of like a person bending over. So right here, this would be where the neck would go, and the neck is like a tube coming out toward us like this, right? And the head fits on top of that, and maybe we're seeing mostly the top part of the head, and there maybe the person's looking downward. And you can kind of follow now the spine as it's going around and it's coming back over this way. And then you can see the shoulders, and the shoulders are coming out this way. Remember, you have the muscles that come off the neck. This is your I don't know why I'm forgetting what these muscles are. Your trapezius. So your trap muscles come out this way, and they connect in like that. They come out here, see, and they connect into the deltoid. And the deltoid muscles come from the back here, and then they also have those two muscles coming here, and they have the lat muscles that come down. And your deltoids, come like this, let's say, and kind of see that top one. And this one, so say the arms are kind of being pulled back, boom, like this, and you kind of see that. See? Then you have your triceps, which are back here, and you're seeing some of the tricep here and some of the bicep and the elbow and all that. And then you can see the forearms are coming back this way, doing whatever they're doing. I'm not really sure about the pose yet, but you know, you can decide about that. And it's kind of like pulling his arms back and don't know what he's doing yet. All this is coming forward and being foreshortened. You know, his hips are in this area here of the bag, right? So that bag kind of helps us understand where the hips are, and they're going to be coming in this way. And so you're going to have a leg attaching to that part of the hip, and over here another leg, and then the knees are going to come over this way. You know, you have knees here, and then the buttocks doesn't come back around, and then this part of the legs come back around that way, and you'll have maybe the foot and the calf and the knee here, a little bit of the calf and so forth. And now we have a person bending over, and we started that out by just a sack, bending a sack over. So taking that sack and kind of twisting and bending in different ways, I think is a way to kind of understand the torso. And we'll go into that, ways to kind of simplify the process and think about how the torso twists and turns. And hopefully this will help us understand the figure that much better. And then we'll add the fat tissues onto it and where they build up at, and the different kind of fat body styles. Then we'll get into just a couple poses, not too many. That I'm going to save for the next course, which will be the dynamic anatomy and figure and the motion of figure for and the animation, or the motion in a figure for animation or something like that. You know, that might even have to be two different courses. Like one will be like the dynamic anatomy and motion of anatomy. I'm gonna try to make it all. I don't know how to title it yet, but I kind of think it can all fit into one course. Basically, it's the anatomy, or excuse me, the animation of anatomy. You know, it's a body in motion, and how anatomy looks when bodies are in motion, but also kind of a little bit getting a little bit into animation and how to show weight distribution and movement and solidity and things like that. You know, when the body's in motion. But anyway, that's gonna be a whole different course. This course will kind of lead into that. So at the end of this course, we'll get into some poses where we're kind of leading in toward the dynamics or the movement of anatomy. All right, cool. Thanks for watching.